All right. Getting a little emotional over here. She's just so pretty, and when I see her having fun and, just doing what a kid's supposed to do and just have fun, and she's so in her element on her swing, and I don't know, it just makes me really emotional. So, all right. So, Summer Moon Utah Wells is still missing, and we are less than a month away from it being 2 years already. I didn't really think I thought maybe it might get to 2 years, but I really didn't think it would actually get to 2 years before they would figure something out, like before we would at least hear something. But here we are. Yeah. This beautiful Appalachia princess, Summer Moon Utah Wells. Anyone with any information, 1-800-TBI-FIND or tips to tbi@tn.gov, as always. Right. All right. Gotta stay strong for summer. And summer, I hope your parents clean themselves up and start accepting help to find you. I hope there are more searches for you soon, and whatever the reason is that there isn't more searching going on, I hope that changes for your benefit soon. I hope the county gets more funds, or the tips that they need start coming in. I hope there's justice for you soon after you're found. I don't want your 8th birthday to come and you still be missing. I want you to be found before another summer goes by without you. I feel in my heart that you've experienced a lot in life. I feel in my heart that you've experienced a lot of struggles that even an adult shouldn't have to go through. And I want you to know that I'm always going to be here for you and be on your side. And there are so many hundreds of people that are also here for you and on your side. And Summer's Army has grown so big with all the love for you. If only love alone could save you. Even if we all don't see eye to eye or agree on everything, we're all here for the same reason, and that's because of you, Summer. So I hope you know in your heart that you are loved and that there are people out here looking for you every day. There are also people out here praying for you every day, and there are people trying to make a difference in your name. I want you to know that you saved your brothers from whatever it was that they were going through, and one day they can tell their story if and when they're ready. I hope you're found so you can tell your story yourself, and because that's what you deserve. You deserve to at least be found, and when you are found, you deserve to tell your story yourself, how you want to tell it. You know the truth. You know what happened to you. You might not understand it, but you know. Someone out here knows something, or someone's know where you are. Somebody has you hidden from the world. We don't know why, and maybe you don't either. This will end someday. There's an army of people on your side fighting the darkness surrounding your case and trying to bring answers to light for you. We may not be law enforcement and have the tools and resources that they do, but we do love you, and we will keep trying to figure out what happened to you. No matter how long it takes, you won't ever be forgotten. And I know I never met you, but I won't ever forget you. Summer has been missing for nearly 2 years. As much as it pains me to say this, her parents have yet to be cleared by law enforcement, and they aren't taking advantage of any help for Summer. when they keep coming to YouTube and incriminating themselves, we don't want to have to talk about that. We don't want to have to say bad things about anybody, but they incriminate themselves. And they're the people that were with Summer last, so it's relevant to Summer because they're her parents. And when she was reported missing, they were the last people to be with her, and also Grandma and the boys. And I mean, Hunter was there right before. Who knows if Allie really saw her or not, but her parents were the last people to have contact with Summer, meaning her grandma, her grandparent, and her mom and her dad. And Grandma has hardly said anything at all besides trying to defend herself and Donna Candace. She released one photo of Summer that we never saw. That I appreciated that, but I mean, she just kind of took off and hasn't really said anything. And when we did hear anything from her, she sounded kind of scary. And I mean, she was trying to stick up for Rose, so that's cool. Rose is still missing. That's another oddity of this case, that Summer's aunt has been missing since 2009. I think she was only like 21 years old, I think. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I mean, she was really young. And yeah, there's no answer. There's a lot of speculation on that. And there's a lot of people around, not a lot, but there's a few people around in the Summer Wells community that know a lot about Rose Bly's case. That, I mean, I don't know if I can trust everything that I hear, you know? I try not to trust everything that I hear unless it comes from law enforcement or I mean, usually things that are on the local news are pretty accurate, but even they get it wrong. So a lot of times things that you hear on here, it's like maybe they are getting it accurate or telling the truth, but you don't really know for sure. When you hear it on the news, you feel like you should be able to rely on it more, but even the news has got it wrong in Summer's case, so I don't even know if I can trust anybody, really, even the news. But there's people around that claim to know the family and know quite a bit about that case, too. And I hope Rose finds answers because she deserves to be found, too. It is pretty crazy that there's two people missing in their family that are that close of family. And really, that's not that big of a gap in time to have two family members go missing. That's pretty rare. And Rose's case is a big deal. Like, any missing case is a big deal, but Rose's case really is, like, it's a big deal around there. And Grandma says she goes to the missing conventions for her. I think she really does. I believe there's like pictures of her there and stuff, and I know she had t-shirts. So I don't know what to think about Grandma, but she did up and leave, and I thought that was pretty suspicious. But maybe it's because she doesn't want to be around Dawn and Candace because she knows they're guilty. I don't know. I can't speak for her. I don't know anything about her. She never talks. But the last people that was with Summer when she was reported missing was them, Grandma, Dawn Candace, and they've basically been named suspects without their names actually being said, but the finger is pointing directly at them, basically, from law enforcement. And it's obvious to me, and I don't see how other people don't see it, but they make a spectacle of themselves online and then turn down help for Summer. And we can't just ignore that. As much as it does distract from Summer, it's her own parents doing it. So what do we make of that? So there is still an active Amber Alert for Summer Moon Utah Wells, and I say that because I do hear people say that there's not anymore. So just to be clear, yes, there definitely is. Summer was reported missing June 15th, 2021. I haven't myself seen definitive proof that she actually was last seen on that day because we don't really know for sure anything. I mean, people say that law enforcement has confirmed the swimming hole video was from June 15th, but I've never heard them say that. Not that I ever recall if I ever heard them say that. Maybe Leslie confirmed it when somebody asked. I don't know. But Summer was reportedly last seen outside her home in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road in Hawkins County, Tennessee. She was reported as 3 feet tall and 40 pounds, which is really, really short for a 5-year-old girl. She has blonde hair, which was shaved at the time of her disappearance, and blue eyes, and she was last seen wearing a pink shirt and gray pants. She was believed to be barefoot. Officials have asked the public when searching to look in spaces small enough that would fit in a laptop case. Hawkins County Sheriff Ronnie Lawson is investigating Summer's case along with the TBI, and they ask that all credible tips be called into 1-800-TBI-FIND. Credible tips may also be emailed to tips2tbi@tn.gov. So I like to read off Summer's information because, believe it or not, there's a lot of people that I see around that I've never seen before, and I don't know what they know. And maybe they don't know about Summer, so I want to make sure that they do. And the internet's forever, so if Summer's missing for years and years, then who knows who could see this that didn't know about Summer before. So I love to read off her information. But sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze. Summer Moon Utah Wells is our beautiful Appalachia princess, I wrote in my notes. She was reported missing when she was only 5, and now she's 7. So let's not go until her 8th birthday with her still missing. Let's remain here and sticking up for her and trying to be a voice for her and keeping pressure on suspects to get help and do the right thing for Summer, because that's what she deserves. Because that's the least that we can do, keep sharing her picture and talking about her, because like I said, who knows how long this could go on for, and the more people that know, the better. So around 6:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2021, 911 was called. There's a lot of speculation surrounding Summer's case. Hold on, I'm going to grab my drink really quick. But last we've heard from law enforcement, everyone is still a suspect and everything is on the table. So maybe that will change at her 2-year mark, and maybe they'll come out and say something else. Maybe they will actually give us names of suspects, or at least people that are not suspects, so just, so we know something. But if they can't do that because of the integrity of their investigation, totally respect that too. It would be nice to know, though. They say, last we've heard, there's no sign of abduction, but it has not been ruled out. There's no sign, but it hasn't been ruled out. So I think maybe they're thinking it could be a possibility, but they're more looking at something else. There's no sign. Law enforcement is still looking for the driver of a late 90s to early 2000s model red or maroon Toyota Tacoma, which had a ladder rack and white buckets in the back. It was seen in the Beach Creek area of near Summer's home on June 14th or 15th in the late afternoon or early evening. I don't know why I got so tongue-tied on that. So I wonder, were they actually a suspect? Because maybe there's no way they don't know. Like, if that was your truck and you were from around there, there's no way you wouldn't know they were looking. And they supposedly checked like hundreds of red trucks and followed up on them. That turned out to be nothing. So hopefully one of those wasn't actually the red truck, and they just took the ladder rack off and didn't have white buckets in it anymore. And maybe that person was a suspect the whole time and they just passed them right by. I hope that's not the case, but it does cross my mind. I don't want to think that Summer is going through any kind of suffering or pain, but I just pray and hope that she is alive. And I think it's important to hold out hope that she is. Um, because if she is alive, it's not really fair to her to assume that she's not when we really have no idea what happened on that hill. It could be a lot worse than we really know, and maybe it was just something really simple that turned into something really tragic. But I have a feeling in my heart that it was probably a lot worse than a lot of us think, and I don't like to think that way, but I still have hope that Summer is alive because I can't think of it any other way until somebody tells me for sure, like law enforcement, then I mean, I just have to hold out hope. Um, Again, anyone with information regarding Summer's whereabouts is asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND. You can find updates um, on Summer on the TBI newsroom.com/Summer Or just go to tbinewsroom.com and search Summer Wells. There haven't been any updates on there since like November. Summer's neighbor at the time of her disappearance, Jody Sue Brown, and her 2 children, one of which was an adult at the time, say they heard a scream around 4:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2021. However, Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has said publicly that that claim is unfounded. So I would love for him to elaborate on that because I want to know how it could be unfounded. Did they not believe Jody? And if not, why? Did they simply have no way to prove the scream? I don't want to think her kids would lie, but I could see Jody lying about it because she was lying about other things like Andy selling Candace and the kids for the kids, drugs so they could be sedated and be touched because I can't believe that she wouldn't report that. And if she did report it, there's no way nothing happened. There would have been some kind of evidence. There would have been an investigation, and there had to have been some kind of evidence if that really happened. You know what I mean? Um, anyway, that's even terrible to even think about. But if someone called leaving a message like that, I guarantee it would be investigated. If that really is true and Jody didn't report it, then that's horrifying. Either way, that made Jody look pretty bad. That could be the reason Summer is gone, if that's true. But she's the one that said it. But I don't believe it. I think it's pretty obvious why she said it because she was triggered by Andy. She was very angry and she probably regrets it. And we all do things that we're not proud of. I'm really not hating on her. I'm just bringing it up because that was a very intense claim. And so was the scream, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, the scream was a pretty intense claim. Only with the scream, we've got Jody's kids saying they heard it too. So if we could trust Jody and the animalistic scream really did happen when she said it did around 4:30, 4:42, would that change anyone's mind what they think happened to Summer? Like if the scream really happened and somehow Ronnie Lawson could say that, didn't say it was unfounded, and they actually came out on the news and were like, yeah, the neighbor heard a scream, then more people would be more inclined to believe it, right? But it seemed like Ronnie Lawson was like, no. Just like the way he said it to me, I don't know. It made it seem like he just didn't believe it or something. But I could have read that totally wrong. Um, yeah, I've been curious about that all along. Summer was reportedly last seen wearing a pink t-shirt and gray pants, though she was initially reported to have been wearing shorts. There seems to be a bit of a discrepancy on what exactly Summer was wearing when she was reported missing, and many other things like her head being shaved, what she ate that day, where she was last seen, whether she went underwater for 10 to 20 seconds and Hunter had to run in and save her or not. There's so many. As far as the initial information with dispatch, I don't think so many people would mess up receiving the information. It's my opinion that the giver of the information, which would have been Don and Candace probably, unless somebody else called 911 or unless Don was the only one that actually called 911. Whoever really did call 911, was the one messing up the information, in my opinion, because that makes more sense. That's enough to tell me nobody was paying attention to Summer probably ever. Robin at church probably showed Summer the most love and affection that she ever saw. Summer was believed to have been barefoot, yet a sock was given to Ellie rather than the jacket Summer allegedly had on that day, that she had just taken off right before she went missing. The jacket that Summer would have been sweating all over within a couple hours of going missing, yet they give Ellie a sock, which she probably hadn't worn in over a month because it was the middle of June. We also don't know where the swimsuit got put on or taken off of Summer, if that happened at Allie's house, at the swim hole, at 110, or somewhere else. I don't know why nobody has the answer to that. Did Summer have her wet bathing suit on underneath her clothes in the car? Her clothes looked dry to me, aside from what appeared to be a little red-colored stain, on her lap belt, which I wonder if that stain was still there when Kathy saw it. I'm just curious. Guess Ellie can make that determination, what the stain was. It was also initially reported that Summer was only 4 years old, though she was 5. Again, I don't see Dispatch being the one to get that wrong. They have a job to do when they answer the phone. They're trained to listen and get it right. It's really important. Summer turned 5 February 4th, 2021, 4 months before she was reported missing. We know Don and Candace didn't know Summer's birthday, or they had forgotten it shortly after she was reported missing, because when they were asked on a live on Molly Golightly's channel, they couldn't remember what Summer's birthday was. So did the dispatchers get it wrong, Summer's age, or did Don get it wrong when he called 911, and Candace also got it wrong when she called 911, if she even called? I want to hear the 911 calls so bad. Summer was also reported as being only 3 feet tall and 40 pounds. Maybe she might have been 40 pounds, but 3 feet tall, that's so short. She was probably like 3.5 to 4 feet tall, in between there. According to TBI, Summer was reported as 3 feet tall. That's so short for a 5-year-old, like half a foot to a foot shorter than most 5-year-old girls. I think they got that from Don and Candace too, and I think Summer was taller than that, which maybe I'm looking too far into it. Maybe a lot of people don't know how tall their kid is, I guess, but whatever. Also, the picture that was initially given to law enforcement was a picture of Summer with her longer hair, not with her head shaved. They certainly did not give the law enforcement the picture of Summer with no shirt on right after she just got her head shaved literally down to the skin with a razor. No, they gave them a picture of her with her pretty long hair. I believe it was Robin that actually gave L.E. their first pictures of Summer with a shaved head. I also know Robin was the first to show the police pictures of Summer at the bottom of the hill, because the cops were down there and they hadn't seen a picture of Summer, and it was like 9 p.m. on June 15th. And they still hadn't even seen a picture of her yet. So Robin was there and she was like, oh, here, let me show you. Like, Don and Candace obviously did not make sure the cops all had the current picture of Summer. You'd think that would be like one of the first things they do, show everybody what she looks like. That's kind of concerning to me, but maybe they weren't allowed down that far. I don't know. Sorry. I believe Don and Candace have guilty knowledge in Summer's disappearance. They don't want the bit of hate that they do get on YouTube, so why are they still here? If it's ruining their life like they say, then why are they still here? Especially when they were told not to be talking about a lot of the things that they're talking about on here. They aren't accepting any of the help that they're finding here, so their claim that they came to YouTube for help finding Summer, that's clearly not true. So why did they really come to YouTube? To defend themselves, but not Summer? Why have they stayed, and why are they still here? I know a lot of people are going to say they're here for money, or a lot of people are going to say, well, they're here to try and find help for their daughter, but that's just not true. Maybe they really are here for money, but I think it's more than that. I really do. I think they were doing a bit of the same thing that Jody was doing and seeing what everyone is saying and what people are catching on to, so they know how to drive the narrative as time goes on for their own reasons. Notice how the story slightly changes over time for everybody. Maybe they're not guilty of Summer's disappearance. Maybe someone came up there on that property and Summer really did walk away and got a little further than they expected, and someone bad was out there, maybe a sicko hillbilly druggie, just like Don said, that was out in the woods and saw Summer. Maybe they knew Summer was going to be there. Maybe they were already there waiting, as Don has suggested, and when Summer went out the basement door, maybe they just took the opportunity when they saw it and took off with Summer, somehow outrunning and outsmarting law enforcement this whole time. If that's the case, I don't think it was a stranger. Either Don or Candace or both of them. Who knows? It was, I mean, I think it was probably both Don and Candace. And I think they both know who it was if someone really did come up there and take Summer. And that's my opinion. And I think that's a very likely possibility, actually. It's possible that Don could have had someone take Summer purposely while he was at work, and he knew Candace was going to be at home all messed up and drunk and whatever and not paying attention. So maybe that's why Don was keeping tabs on Candace throughout the day and wondering when she would be home. He probably knew Summer would come outside at some point. It wouldn't be hard to do with Candace not paying attention. It wouldn't be hard for somebody that doesn't have a heart. Especially with no parents supervising attentively. Or Candace could have had someone take Summer while Don was at work. Or maybe they both had something set up. Maybe Summer went with someone and was supposed to come back and never did. Maybe Candace knows that, but Don doesn't, or vice versa. If that's the case, I think they both know. I feel in my heart that they both know what happened to Summer, and they don't want to go to prison for the rest of their lives, so they're not saying a word. It actually makes sense that Don and Candace are guilty in Summer's disappearance when you consider all the help they've turned down or backed out of, even in the baby in the bin prank, like really, and the prank call to Mary, and the way Candace allegedly acted about it afterwards, like it was no big deal. She just laughed it off. Things Candace has said about wanting to talk, like when she told Ernie Shell to give her 2 days and she would talk to him about what really happened to Summer. Don over embellishing all the time and saying things like he's got 7 alibis and Candace ain't got none. She's going down. Also, Candace can't give a clear and concise timeline of June 15th after 3 p.m. I think something bad happened to Summer after they dropped Hunter off, because I don't think Summer was doing too well in that photo/video, the milk jug one. I think she was alive because, someone I heard, I think it was Justin for All, said about her jaw would be open if she was deceased in that photo. And I was like, dang, yeah, he's probably right. And so I looked it up on Google, and it basically says, yeah, your jaw is probably going to be open, unless there's something that happened keeping it from being open, I guess, after you pass. So, but her jaw was shut. So, I think the way Summer was sitting up like that, her jaw would have drooped if she was not alive. Maybe not. I'm certainly no expert. The way Grandma says no, or whoever that is in the car with Candace in that video, it sounds like Allie to me, but I don't know. When asked is her arm still up, she says no, and then Candace says, oh, well, that's what I was trying to catch. It sounds like something bad happened, by the tone in their voice and just the look on Candace's face and the way they say it. It just sounds and looks dark, especially with Summer looking all passed out and droopy and looking all pale in the face and appearing to have bruising on her head, and she's leaning up against cold milk, which leads many to speculate that she could have had a head injury. Also, that photo and video could have been from a different day altogether. We really don't know. Maybe something happened to Summer prior and she was injured, and on June 15th, she was injured again and she got gone because of it. Or maybe the injury got worse and she got gone because of it. I mean, it's really sick and sad, but it does happen. Candace can only give us an hour worth of stuff that they maybe did when they arrived home around 3:15. And she says she was only gone for 2 minutes when she turned her back on Summer. She went over to Grandma's camper and left Summer in the house where the boys were watching TV and expected to watch Summer while Candace was gone. Now, if Candace would have said she was gone for 2 hours, that would have made it make sense. That would explain why there's this huge time gap. But then Candace would have to tell what she was doing in that couple of hours. Was she sleeping? Did she go down the hall or somewhere? For what? When she came back, was Summer gone? Maybe it really was 2 hours that she was gone, and she was a lot further away than what she said she was. Maybe she really did go for a walk, and when she came back, Summer was gone. It's a very likely possibility. They did say that on the dispatch. When you consider all the things that make Don and Candace suspicious in regards to Summer's disappearance, it makes things make sense when you consider Don and Candace are guilty. It does not make sense in my mind that Don and Candace do not have guilty knowledge in Summer's disappearance. I have to pick a side, and that side is Summer. And if I don't feel like Don and Candace are also truly on Summer's side, I'm not going to defend them. I'm going to stick up for Summer. It's not fair that if her parents are guilty or they really know what happened, that they don't have to answer to it. And of course, we don't know yet. They're innocent until proven guilty by a court of law, but I'm not a court of law, and they don't get to rob Summer of a proper burial and her story to be told if they are guilty. That's like so inhumane. It's not right. It's totally immoral. And in my opinion, to just entertain their BS, that's also just not right and totally immoral. Hate me, come for me, I don't care. But I don't believe Don when he says things about Summer like she only wanted him for the first 18 months of her life, really. That's so unnatural and abnormal. I just don't believe it. If she did, it's probably because Don made it that way. Because every baby wants their mother. That's just nature. He pushed it too hard, too. Do I believe Don really went and got a bunch of dope and handed it out for free because that was his way of showing the law that he did not need to sell Summer? No. I also don't believe that Candace merely got her feelings hurt when she filed for an order of protection against Don and put him in jail that night when they had a DV incident when Jose was there. It was said Don threw a beer bottle at Jose and busted his lip and chipped one of his teeth, but I don't know if that's true or not. So Don says in his version, he didn't do anything to hurt anybody. Candace just got her feelings hurt. But nobody was actually scared for themselves or for the children. It was just a lie from Candace because Candace's feelings were hurt. Okay, that's what Don wants us to think. The children were there for this, unfortunately. I think Don made Candace, Grandma, and the kids scared because he was being belligerent and violent and probably loud and aggressive. And I think Candace really wanted away from Don and was actually scared for the kids. I think that's why she filled out a report. That's really concerning, and only 8 months prior to Summer's disappearance. And a lot of people just dismiss it because Candace did. That's not cool. Why did Summer have a black eye and other bruises on her face all the time? Why? All I can say is if that's because of Don, there's a special place in hell. It makes me wonder, what about all the times the cops were not called when they should have been? This is an article that I pulled from the RogersvilleReview.com from June 26, 2021, about the incident in October of 2020. The father of missing child Summer Wells has a history of drinking and domestic violence. According to a warrant filed in General Sessions Court in Hawkins County on October 15, 2020, Candace Bly of Rogersville called authorities to report a domestic assault by her husband, Don Wells. When Deputy Kyle Shively of the Hawkins County Sheriff's Department arrived at the couple's home on Ben Hill Road, Wells had left the property, so he began to speak with Bly and two witnesses. I'm assuming the two witnesses were Grandma and Jose. When another deputy warned Shively that Wells' white GMC Sonoma was coming up the drive, Shively said family members expressed fear and said there was a firearm in the truck. Clearly, this is not Candace just getting her feelings hurt and calling the police like Don claims. This sounds like a real DV incident, in my opinion, and Don won't admit to it. He just blames it on Candace. Shively detained Wells in the driveway and said he detected a strong odor of alcohol and apparently had to pick Wells up from the ground. Sounds like Don was quite a mess. Don has a thing for having alcohol on his breath and talking to police. They probably don't think very highly of Don, if I had to guess. I don't get the vibe that they think Don or Candace are innocent either. I get the vibe that they think they're guilty. Detective Pruitt says they have nothing to lead them to believe that she's been abducted or trafficked out of the area, and that he believes she is close by. And we also have law enforcement saying they're not going to classify cooperation at this time because that will just lead to more speculation and rumors from social media, and that's going to bog them up. If Don and Candace were cooperating, they would have just said, yes, they're cooperating, like Ronnie Lawson did in the very beginning. Then he came out several months later and said Don and Candace were no longer cooperating. Then they say this. So that tells me something didn't go the way Don thought it was going to, and he stopped answering questions or doing whatever the police needed in their investigation to find Summer. That's very concerning. That's probably why Don said in the very beginning that he did not trust law enforcement, because then he could turn around and say, see, I told you I didn't trust the police, and now they're turning on us. Don says everyone turns on them. Don't you think there's a good reason for that, Don? Look how you've been treating people that are trying to help your daughter. It shouldn't matter if you like them or not, or if they're helping you or not. They're trying to help your daughter, and you're not letting them. They're not here for you. They're here for Summer. The ones that are here for you, like Tim Mullen, that's probably why you said that's your best friend. Because he's not here for Summer, he's here for you, and that's really weird to me. I'll never get past Tim Mullen's billboard idea that said, help me find my daughter, with a picture of Dawn. I wish I could find a screenshot of that. Wells allegedly admitted to a firearm in the truck, but said it was a black powder pistol, the article goes on. The weapon was soon located. Wells also reportedly admitted to having felony charges in Utah. When Shively spoke with Bly and two other witnesses, Jose Roman and Candace Harrer, Bly said Wells came home drunk and when he saw Roman in the house, accused Bly of infidelity. Well, if we're to believe Andrew, Hunter's dad, he said Hunter was so upset because he thought Jose was going to be with his mom, Allie, but Hunter walked in on Candace and Jose doing it, and it devastated him. So remember when Candace said she loves Donnie, but she's not in love with him anymore? Maybe she really wasn't. I think it's likely that Candace was cheating on Don with Jose, and we all know Don cheated on Candace. He admitted it. Don and Candace are definitely not the happy family that they try to portray or say that they are. They have a toxic relationship. The article continues. Wells allegedly began to struggle with both Roman and Bly as she was pushed down, injuring her left knee. Bly and other witnesses said Wells began punching himself in the face and then left. The only reason Don would be punching himself in the face is because he's trying to make it look like he was the one that got beat up so he wouldn't get in trouble for hitting Jose with a beer bottle or for whatever he did to Candace. So obviously he knew he was in the wrong if he was so worried about getting in trouble. If he didn't do anything wrong, he wouldn't be worried and he wouldn't be punching himself in the face. Wells was arrested, and in April of this year, he pled guilty to possession of a firearm while under the influence. But this was April of last year. Charges of unlawful possession of a weapon and domestic assault were dismissed due to a failure to prosecute, because Candace wrote the motion to the judge to dismiss it and said she was just upset or something and that she didn't want him charged. So the judge dropped it and he got out of jail and nothing happened. He was given supervised probation for 1 year and ordered to perform 96 hours of community service. His weapon was forfeited to the sheriff's department. Bly also filed for an order of protection for herself and her 4 children on October 13th, 2020, that's including Summer, but later withdrew the petition. I can't help but wonder, would Summer still be here if Candace followed through with that? And was Grandma the one that influenced Candace to do that, or did she do that all on her own? I'm very curious. Wells also was charged with being a fugitive from justice for an out-of-state parole violation in 2001. Wells and Bly's 5-year-old daughter, Summer, disappeared from their house on June 15th, and authorities have been searching for her since. They have not identified a suspect or a suspect vehicle in the incident. However, it was heavily implied that everyone around Summer the day she disappeared is a suspect. When Lawson said everyone is a suspect, interesting they don't want to specifically name a suspect, but they clearly don't trust the parents and won't clear them. And they so vaguely said they are suspects without actually saying their names. And the law was asking questions to Jose, like they were wondering if Don and Candace did bodily injury to Summer. This tells me they were suspicious of Don and Candace from the beginning, and they likely still are. The article continues. This week, authorities instituted roadblocks in the area to ask passing motorists if they had seen Summer. Don Wells appeared on local media pleading for help in finding Summer. Don's plea on the news was less desperate than a plea for someone with a missing goldfish. Candace wrote in her report that Don drinks and throws things, and he's afraid of being hurt. He is abusive physically and mentally towards me. I am afraid for my children and myself. My mother fears he is going to hurt her because she is staying in a camper on the property. I wonder if Don has hurt her before. Okay, that was 8 months before Summer was reported missing when all that happened. Then, in January of 2022, another report is filed of domestic violence against Don. This time, Don didn't go to jail because the law couldn't tell who the aggressor was, and Candace claimed that Don broke her thumb, but she was messing with her shoes and flicking her cigarette and using her thumb just fine when police got there, but the EMT did say it appeared to be stubbed. By this time, there were no children in the home when this one happened, so thankfully they didn't have to witness this one. At the time of the incident in 2020, all of the kids were there. Don says he doesn't even know where the kids were at the time because he wasn't paying attention. He said the kids were probably in the basement. They probably ran down to the basement because they were scared because their dad was yelling and pushing people around and throwing things. It's not fair that Summer or her brothers had to witness anything like that from their own parents, especially. It's really sad. I wonder why when Candace was being interviewed by Chris McDonough, she acted like she could not remember Jose's name. There's no way she forgot his name. He lived with her within her home within a year of Summer being reported missing. She probably just didn't want to talk about the DV incident because she knew it would make her and Don look bad. Um, you know? So here's an article from WJHL from January 2022. Hawkins County, Tennessee. Candace Bly reported Don Wells for domestic assault last week, police reports reveal. According to a domestic report from the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, officers were called to the Wells residence around 12:30 a.m. January 19, 2022, in reference to an open 911 line. So I was under the impression for some reason that Grandma was the one that called, but I don't know. Maybe not. It may have been Candace. The children were no longer there, so it was not one of them. On their way home, dispatchers told officers that they could hear arguing in the background of the line, then lost contact. When officers arrived to the scene, Candace Bly, mother of missing Rogersville 5-year-old Summer Wells, told officers that Don Wells had hit her, grabbed her by the throat, and pushed her against a wall. So does anyone think Candace would tell the police this, that Don did these things to her specifically, if he really didn't? Because I don't. I think Candace is too codependent on Don. I don't think she would want him like arrested and away from her unless he did something really serious like that. Then she just goes back to him anyways, but I think Candace does get her feelings hurt when Don does these things, but I think Candace probably does call the cops because she's scared of Don and she's unable to stop him from being belligerent and violent. Bly said she believed her thumb was broken, and when officers asked how it happened, Bly reportedly stated that she hit it on a washing machine when Don Wills grabbed her by the throat. That's an awfully specific statement to be made up on the spot. I actually believe Candace here. In my opinion, Don is and always has been the primary aggressor. And I actually believe Jody when she says there was abuse going on at 110. Even though she said she didn't ever see Don be abusive towards Summer, being abusive towards her mother in front of her really isn't that much better. There have been a lot of cases of children getting in the middle of a fight between parents and getting hurt themselves. I'm not saying that happened to Summer. I'm saying I think there was a potential for that, unfortunately. I really think Summer saved her brothers. Bly said the incident had occurred roughly 2 to 3 hours before the 911 call. So they were probably arguing and fighting for hours, and maybe Grandma called 911 because she got sick of it and she was scared for Candace. According to the report, Bly said they both had been drinking alcohol. Don Wells told officers that they had been arguing, but he had not touched her, and that Bly had been drinking before Wells arrived home around 7:30 p.m. earlier that night. The report specifies that Bly used her left hand to put on her shoes while officers were at the scene, as well as her left thumb to flick a cigarette. So her left thumb obviously was not broken, but she did slam it on the washer and think it was broken. Don must have really grabbed her with some force. That's really concerning, and I don't want to think about that kind of thing happening in front of the children, but unfortunately it probably did. Um, the kids probably had to witness a lot of fighting and mental and physical abuse, which is unacceptable, but we don't have definitive proof of it, so I guess we can't really accuse anyone of anything, but it's just hard to see it any other way, as sad as it is. Officers said they did not see any marks on Bly's neck and did not see any bruising or swelling on her thumb. That doesn't mean that Don didn't grab her by the neck. That just means he didn't scratch her up in the process. I think Don wants Candace to stay quiet and he wants to be the one to do all the talking. I think Candace doesn't say much because she knows Don doesn't want her to. He's probably afraid she will say something incriminating. Don probably thinks he's the only one that can outsmart everybody. I don't think Don or Candace will outsmart the law. I think the law is on to them, and I think they have been, and I think they have a lot more than we know. EMS on scene examined Candace and said her thumb appeared to be stubbed, according to the report. Wells and Bly were referred to private prosecution on the matter, and the report says neither were arrested, with the primary aggressor unknown. If someone out here in the world has Summer and Don and Candace truly have no idea what happened to her, I don't believe for a minute that it wasn't their fault in some way. They probably did something to someone that they shouldn't have messed with, and now that someone took Summer. And if that's the case, then Don and Candace, probably both of them, would have a pretty good idea of what happened. They would know what they messed up, who they messed up with, and who took Summer. They would know if there's a chance that it could be a sex offender that they let live on their property maybe, or that they knew to be around at the time, or that could have came back and been stalking Summer until they found the perfect opportunity. But I doubt it. I doubt that's how it happened. There was too many people around. Don says he thinks she may have been targeted off of Facebook or TikTok, but what about the skeezy people living all around them? Why wouldn't he say that? and that they let stay on their property, like I was saying, But maybe it would have been somebody that, if it was somebody that was staying on the property, could have got away with it because maybe Summer would have recognized them and went with them. Who knows? I just don't see it happening because I don't think the one homeless guy that everyone says was a perv, I don't think he was there at the time, but I could be wrong. I don't think it's the most likely scenario, but like it's a possibility. There were a lot of sex offenders that lived around Summer in very close proximity, and Don and Candace know that. And Candace probably didn't watch Summer as closely as she said she did, so there is a chance that someone could have taken Summer. But I think they would have been tracked down. I think somebody would have seen it. There would have been a witness to something. Summer would have to really, someone would like really have to outsmart the cops and hide Summer really well. I think whoever has taken and hidden Summer would have to know the land surrounding her home and all the land around that holler like the back of their hand to get through it quick enough and with little enough disturbance so as not to be caught by the card team or any other law enforcement or agencies. I think it's a lot more likely that something happened to Summer while they were out for the day, but I don't think she was, you know, unalived while they were out for the day, or I don't think an accident happened and she passed away while they were out for the day before they dropped Hunter off or before they got home. But she may have gotten seriously injured around that time frame, maybe even the day or days prior to June 15th. Summer could have gotten injured, and maybe after all the swimming and everything on June 15th, Summer's injuries were getting worse, and maybe she slipped into a state of unconsciousness or something, and Candace took Summer to Dawn because she didn't know what to do, or took Summer somewhere on her own where she then passed and was hidden. I don't know. Then in that case, I feel cadaver dogs would have picked up a scent in someone's car or somewhere, which makes me concerned for the possibility of trafficking because of the fact that, she's in just nowhere and there's no scent. Like, if something would have happened to her in one of the cars, they would have picked up a scent or something, but there's not. So it's like something would have happened, had to have happened to her like outside somewhere, outside of the property, aside from where they've searched. But yeah, it makes me concerned for the possibility of trafficking because there was no scent picked up in the cars that we know of. If Summer was trafficked, I think there would be some kind of money trail or something. But nowadays, I'm sure the sickos of this world have found a way to bypass digital trails that cops can see, like text messages, calls, DMs, etc. I don't know what they would have done with the money unless they owed it to someone else. Maybe they used burner phones that can't be tracked and got rid of them before reporting Summer missing. There are ways around getting caught, but I don't think there's a way to outsmart the law enforcement and agencies invested in Summer's case. I just don't. EquiSearch, everyone in the world that loves Summer and adores Summer and is looking for her and fighting for her, they're not going to outsmart everybody. I think someone or someone's purposely found a way around getting Summer gone without getting caught. But I think it will eventually catch up to them. Summer will be found and justice will be served. I have full faith in that. I have to. I hope Summer wasn't trafficked, but I hope she is alive. If I could make one wish, I would wish that Summer is alive. In my heart, I feel Summer did not pass away at her house or in one of the cars because I feel the scent would have been picked up, like I said. If Summer passed at the swim hole, I think the dogs would have picked up the scent from the drive home. If something happened to Summer at 110, they would have picked up the scent there. Unless something happened to Summer at the swim hole and somehow they had someone else pick them up and really the way they went and did everything else, the time was off a little bit, but I don't know. Did they use cadavers at 125? So if Summer passed on June 15th, where would it have happened? At someone else's property? What car would they have driven her in to hide her? Someone else's vehicle? If it really happened on another day, how long would the dogs be able to pick up her scent? The cadaver dogs, I mean. Were all the vehicles in that hauler checked with both scent and cadaver dogs? I think they definitely should have been. Jody and Andy's whole property, too, I think should have been checked with scent and cadaver dogs. I think they definitely need to. If they haven't yet searched all of that property at 125, man, it's probably too late by now. Who knows? They should have. But yeah, food for thought. Maybe that's why Don wanted to be seen in the red Subaru on June 15th, because he knew Summer was going to need taken somewhere, and he thought the red Subaru would stick out. So if Don was picked up in another vehicle or brought another vehicle to work to drive by somebody else, nobody would notice that it was him driving it, because his red Subaru would still be sitting on the job, so they would think he was still at work. You see what I'm saying? So if he really left, he could have really left to went and go do something with Summer potentially. If Summer was sold, it would make more sense than a lot of other theories, if I'm being completely honest, which is really bittersweet because I can't imagine that for Summer, but it would mean that there's a good chance that she's alive. And I have to continue to believe that she is. Running out of time here. We have to be Summer's voice until she is found, and we can tell her, and then she can tell her story on her own. Thank you guys for being here for Summer. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. Sorry if I kind of stumble over my words. Sometimes I take a lot of notes, and I try and skip over some stuff, and it makes ideas bounce around in my head of all these things I want to say, and I want it to all come out good for Summer. So I'm sorry if it doesn't sometimes, but I always want it to be perfect for Summer. And I hope that she can be found before we go through another summer without her. All right, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you, really do. No summer, no peace. All right, I'm extremely tired, so I'm gonna go. Thanks for being here. Bye.